Hey guys, Jerry the Poor Historian, and I am back! And believe it or not, this is actually the second time that I've tried recording this entire video. The first time I was so excited that the video was half an hour long, and as beautiful as I am, I don't think anyone wants to see me for half an hour just talking in front of a brick wall. So this is my second attempt, and I'm going to try to shrink it down into a more manageable level. But before we dive into it, just a quick, brief overview of what we're talking about. In December 2024, I finished the first time ever teaching a college credit course that is HEMA. This was Fit 180 Historical Swordsmanship at GVSU, Grand Valley State University in Allendale, Michigan. And as far as I can tell, this is the first time that an entire class has been offered for college credit using historical swordsmanship, which is as opposed to using historical swordsmanship as a small section of a larger topic. This entire topic was HEMA. It was a HEMA course offered through a college, which is so cool, which is something that I wanted, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you wanted when we were going through college. And to be honest, it is a level of education that I think HEMA deserves. I think because we use primary source analysis, we are so in tune with the scholarly research relevant to what we practice. I think HEMA as a martial art is much more deserving, or not much more deserving, but I should say it's much more connected to the scholarly world and relevant to higher education, which is great. So the reason I think that this class was the first college class is because when I was first offered this course, which believe it or not was like 5-6 years ago, and then of course COVID put a huge hold on everything, after I had given my spiel and given many reminder emails and many in-person meetings trying to explain the relevance of HEMA and why it should be a college class, and once it was done, we had to wait 5 years because of COVID in order to get that started. And of course, I had to explain the scholarly connection. So in any case, the reason I thought this was the only one is because back then I reached out to a lot of the communities, for example, HEMA/WMA instructors Facebook group, and just asked if anyone has ever done a college course in HEMA before. I'm not talking about, the courses in different clubs, which is something I've been doing for many years, but specifically in colleges and what the differences might be, colleges and universities. And no one was there. No one had done it before, as far as I can tell, and I haven't. And even since then, in the years in preparation, and even now, I haven't encountered one. So this video is me trying to explain the difficulties in teaching a historical swordsmanship class in a college as opposed to in a club or a school. So first of all, just to say it was an amazing experience. Thank you to GVSU. Thank you for the Movement Science Department for helping out with this. Highly recommend it. And if anyone does want to try their hand at teaching HEMA in a college class, feel free to reach out to me. I would absolutely love to help try to get this to happen. So, okay, here's some of the difficulties. The first difficulty was gear, and it's a twofold. One is cost and one is actual managing of the gear. So the thing was, class limits are limited to a maximum of 24 students. Now, the Movement Science Department said it's not a common thing for classes to hit their capacity. Haha, wouldn't you guess? A sword fighting class is a pretty popular one, so my class actually hit the capacity, and I was teaching 24 students. Fortunately, GVSU gave me a double-sized gym in order to teach, which was helpful, but wasn't able to give a lot of the one-on-one that I would prefer to give because we also only had an hour and 40 minutes each session, each week. Those were two minor difficulties right there. Just get those out of the bag. But the gear, so I had to talk about safety and protective equipment. I know this was a big debate in the HEMA community. I'm not here to debate that, but I had to balance practicality, especially gearing up 24 people that I myself had to gear. So we did decide that while we could use steel and wood for drill and training, we would have to limit it to synthetic for sparring. The agreed upon safety requirements that we had were mask, padded gloves, elbow protection, and an athletic cup for those who needed it. We did offer additional protection, gorget, chest protection, leg protection for those who wanted it. But that was the minimum that we agreed on. And of course, a massive, massive, massive dose of control and safety and understanding that you are here to practice with your partner, not here to prove yourself or do anything, which honestly I did not have a lot of, which was very, very, very nice to see. You know, we were all a young adult in their late teens or early 20s, and we had a lot to prove then, but I'm glad that that didn't leak into the class, which was very cool. Fortunately, GVSU had a fencing club. I don't know if it was not active or defunct or what have you, but they had a load of fencing masks that were GVSU fencing masks. And while I went through them and made sure that the masks had the proper bib, it was good that I didn't have to haul those, but I did have to haul the gloves and the elbows and the additional gorgets and chest protection and the weapons every single day, which was just so much to carry. Fortunately, I basically had most of that already here at the Swordsmanship Museum and Academy that I run, so I didn't have to worry about acquiring that much new stuff in the safety regards. I also had at least 24 long swords with plenty of synthetics, but what I didn't have were the two other weapons that I decided to teach and got approval to teach in this course, and that was Dusek and Saber. So the order that I taught, just to clarify, was longsword for about 4 or 5 weeks, Dusek for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then Saber for 3 or 4 weeks. Just because I was limited to 14 weeks. So the first order I put in was for these Duseks, and that was from Street Forge Armory. I still encourage them. I've been using them for years. Unfortunately, with the rush and the quantity, the Duseks showed up, and they were great for training, but unfortunately they just didn't flex, and they had a bit more of a blade heaviness than I was comfortable for sparring. So I was kind of at a loss there. They gave me plenty of extra Duseks too, so now I've got 30 training Duseks, which is great, in addition to the stuff I already had. But I did have to find a solution. So I also put in my second order through Purple Heart Armory for their basic trainers, and I put 2 different blades into that order. These 2 here. By the way, expect a review, at least for these 2, sometime in the future. So like and subscribe! Oh God, that hurts. In order to stay updated. So anyway, these are the 2 basic trainers that I ordered from Purple Heart Armory. The first, I was trying to double dip. This is their Hungarian saber, and I know that the Hungarian and Polish saber classes here at the Swordsmanship Museum have been very popular, so I thought I might as well buy 8 of these, and the rest of the 24, which is 16, I bought these. This is something I had to hunt down on their page. Apparently it wasn't that popular. A Civil War saber design, which is perfect because that's the type of saber that I wanted to teach for my class, intentionally trying to make it, it's not as popular as like Hutton English saber or Eastern saber styles, but I think it's important to teach because here we are in Michigan, and the Civil War instructor, Thomas Stevens, that I taught was from Wisconsin, so it's a nice local relevant topic to teach. Anyway, I put these in for 24 total basic trainers, which was another large expense. Together, those 2 were like $1,200 of an order. It was just massive. I don't think I made a profit teaching this class, but at least now I have these swords. My solution, by the way, was I used these Hungarian saber basic trainers as our sparring Duseks because they are lighter and they do flex significantly more. So problem solved, which was good. I liked overcoming an easy solution with that. So we talked about hauling gear. We talked about the cost or acquiring the gear, which was another big issue. The other big issue that I really wanted to talk about, now there were plenty of little issues like I mentioned before. One issue was trying to squeeze in 3 classes plus unique days like a steel sparring representative day. I did teach a day on Japanese katana. I wanted to teach a day on 18th century cutlass and 18th century Scottish basket hilt, and the final session being a mock tournament, which we did do. It was a blast. But I just ran out of time. Like 14 weeks seems like a lot when you have an hour and 40-minute class each week. But when you're actually cutting down to it, it's not. You have to force yourself to stop teaching here. You want to continue. We can all teach 14 weeks worth of medieval longsword, but you have to force yourself to stop, which is what I did. That was, like I said, little difficulty. So when I didn't get to teach the cutlass or the broadsword class, because I just ran out of time. But the other big difficulty, and this was the big difficulty, along with gear, was grading students. Now, given this was kind of more like an elective class, I mean, they still got credit, it still worked towards movement science degrees, so it had it met requirements for graduation. But the big difficulty was grading. How do we grade students? Here at the museum, when people show up for a class, they want to learn, and it's not on me. They don't want to get a grade. They're here to get a break from being judged. They're here to enjoy their free time, learn a new skill. I'm not here to say, oh, you suck, get better. That's not a welcoming environment, but in my opinion. But in the GVSU world, I did have to. And I decided I am not here to grade people based on their fitness or their athletics. I'm not here for that. If they wanted that, that's one of the reasons why I offered the tournament at the end. They're welcome to follow through on that. In fact, believe it or not, there was a very significant comparison between the students who focused on fitness and the students who learned and practiced the techniques. And while the fitness students may or may not have been as pristine in their movements, the technique students were definitely giving them a run for their money. And it was really fun to see that kind of split, like, all right, which one's gonna win, Godzilla or Gigan? The fitness one or the technique one? It was very cool. But the grading, what I did was for each section, which would be longsword, dussack, saber, I created a grade, like a section end. And I actually offered multiple opportunities, or I suppose I'd say multiple options for ways that the students could get credit. So I did offer a standard questionnaire style test, which most of the students took probably because they were familiar with it. That format for their college. But many students picked some of the alternative options. One was making like a YouTube video style video to it so that they can try teaching their favorite technique that we learned in class, which was great. I required them to use vocab words and stuff we learned in class too to actually show they knew what they were talking about. But that was fun. The other options were taking a video of them and 2 of their friends sparring, 2 of their fellow classmates sparring, and do an analysis, like either a voiceover or a written analysis on one of their classmates and then one of themselves, so that they can kind of practice giving feedback, which was great. And then there was a few others. There was a self-reflection paper that was a lot of fun. That we all love our progress in sword fighting. We all love our progress in this path that we're on. And I want to encourage that kind of retrospective or introspective feedback and, being able to verbalize that. And then lastly, I did a bit of a gear research. No one signed up for that, but I was encouraging, look at the different models of Fetischwert that are available, or look at the different models of protective equipment and kind of compare and contrast and which your favorite would be. I still want to keep that on there because I think that's an important part of the community, being able to not just analyze historical sources, not just analyze your own fighting, but also analyze the quality and safety aspect of it as well. No one did that one, but I like it. So there was five or six different options that students could take and follow through for that grading. And at the end of the day, we did have some students that just didn't do the graded assignment and they didn't get credit for the class. And that's very disappointing because some of them were very into it. But that's what I was frequently told as a professor, that we are here to help these young adults understand responsibilities. We cannot hold their hand for the entire time. It is teaching, at the end of the day, it is teaching adults. We're not teaching high schoolers or middle schoolers or elementary schoolers. They are adults and they have to understand their responsibilities. So as long as we were very upfront and clear with what it was, which I was, we can only do so much for it. But despite some of the students not passing, which was only a minimal fraction, many did with flying colors. Many were so into it, and the passion that I saw, students staying later to spar, students thanking me personally for introducing the skill to them, giving them that break, break from the traditional nose to the book style research. It was a blast. It was so fulfilling. GVSU is going to welcome me back next year, next fall, so fall 2025, to teach that class again. I'll take the things that I learned, modify it. I'm not going to change the entire outline of the course just yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, GVSU has a policy where new professors can teach one class a year. I don't know if it's the department or the overall university, I don't know. But basically, you teach one class a year for 2 years, and if they're both successful, then they'll offer you more full-time opportunities. So, fingers crossed. And at the end of the day, my favorite HEMA master, even though I hate using that word, Thomas Stevens, the guy that was the Civil War saber instructor, his title was Professor of Swordsmanship. It was probably his own self-appointed title, but now I'm there too. One step closer. So this has been the difficulties of teaching the first ever GVSU, or first ever university level historical swordsmanship class. I hope it helped you and gave you some guidance. If you're on the way, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to support you as well. Take care. Hopefully we'll see some more videos soon. Love you guys. Bye.